Mason, you good? You eating? Is this yours? No.
Are we ready?
Are you ready? You got it.
We're ready? Everybody's listening, that's so cool. First and foremost, I apologize if I have puffy eyes. About an hour ago I was playing with Mr. Reese's kittens, and I'm a little allergic. So I wasn't crying, only a little bit. So, but if you get a chance, go find the kids, because they're really cute. Second most, if you don't know me, which there's a couple of you guys I don't recognize, my name is Mason Reyher. I used to be in this youth group just about a year ago, little less than that, and I don't know, it was a really good time in my life. I enjoyed it. So if you're going to youth group, stick with it. It's a good place to be, good people.
So did you just quit this youth group, or what happened?
I graduated. So I moved up to Montana, up in Bozeman, and yeah, great place, beautiful valley. Elizabeth and Bozeman, two of the prettiest places in the world, in my opinion. I'm studying computer science, but you guys probably don't care about that. So, but yeah, I'm in college now. What's up?
I've been there about computer science.
Thanks, man.
Not just computer science, but I actually want to be for computer science.
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't not caring about what you're doing with computer science, just about computer science.
It's a fun field. So I'm going to share, let's say, a small amount of my testimony to start with this off. I'm going to start it pretty tragic, so I apologize. I grew up, I'm still growing up, not really sure, in a pretty broken home. I don't know. Parents went to church probably the first 10 years of my life, and then I was pretty much on my own going to church. I would have to ask to go there. But yeah, I always wanted to go to church in some capacity, and I'm certainly glad I stuck with that, because I wouldn't have turned out the way I did if I hadn't done that. But Mom and Dad, they divorced around 8 years old, something like that. Pretty bad. They argued a lot, you know, and then everything got pretty bad a couple of years ago. Some violence in the home, and just not a good situation to be in. If any of you are in that kind of situation, I'm deeply sorry, but you know, I understand how it is. So life is kind of hard sometimes. But no, for about 12 years or so, I was really depressed and like deep into self-harm, like pretty much every night, just cutting, burning, all that kind of jazz, like pretty nasty. And yeah, it was very sad. And last year, sometime during the summer, I was driving home with Jake. We had just had a magic party, if anybody knows what Magic the Gathering is, or if I'm just an old man now. But basically, he was saying that he was worried about me going off to college, because my thoughts about going to college were just moving away, moving to a whole new state. I knew nobody going to the school. I thought everything was going to change. I thought everything was going to be a lot better, and I was just going to immediately be happy. And Jake was virally honest with me, and he said, no, that's not the case. Nothing is going to change. And he shared a song with me, Sold by Heavy Things. If you guys want to listen to the song, it's a good song. I don't have it in the presentation. It's a good song. But anyway, yeah, he told me my circumstances weren't going to change, and I was very depressed at this point. I had been for a long time. And wouldn't you know it, I went to college, and I don't know, a dozen long and lonely, sad nights, and later, yeah, I was still depressed, and yeah, it really sucked bad. And I'm sure some of you are going through the same thing, and well, you guys will be in my prayers, because it's not an easy situation to be in. But just to start off with some questions, just to raise a hand, like, have you ever been depressed? Raise of hands. I expect pretty much everybody, right? We all get sad at some point or another. Some always get sadder than others, but it's not a competition because sadness is the result of sin in this world, at least to some extent. And yeah, certainly shouldn't be here. So we want to be happy. So my second question, not a raise of hands or an answer from anybody, but just kind of think about it in your head. What kind of entity or something or another, what could bring somebody out of that funk? What could bring me out of, I don't know, 12 years of deep depression and hundreds of scars and all that kind of stuff? What could bring somebody out of that? So that brings me, I would like to open to, we're going to be in Acts chapter 2. Everybody got a Bible? Nobody got a Bible? Okay.
Acts what?
Acts
Acts
chapter
2.
2.
Acts chapter 2.
Thanks,
Try
Luke.
looking after Acts 1.
Oh, Luke over here.
Okay, so just some context about Acts chapter 2. You guys remember at the end of like all the Gospels, Jesus was crucified on a cross, and then he died, which was kind of horrible. And then he rose again after 3 days, and we all rejoice. That's the basis of the Christian faith, and that's what I hope we all believe in. And that's how we are saved and go to heaven eventually, is by belief through him. So this is after he rose again, and his risen self, the new Jesus. I think both of them were awesome, but this Jesus had died and risen again, so I think it's awesome. But he was parading around the outskirts of Jerusalem for like 40 days. This happens right after he disappeared back up to heaven, and so the new church, they're just pretty much like, all right, what do we do now? Jesus is gone, and he's told us to go out and make disciples, and so what do we do? I will be reading from Acts chapter 2, verse 42. Give me a minute to find it. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their new homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Raising hands, what's happening? Anybody?
Church is growing.
Fellowship. Church is growing, fellowship. Yeah. Everybody's just kind of living with one another, loving on one another. Josh, go
They're all
ahead.
one big community.
Yeah. Easy peasy, right? It's not that hard to read into. Everybody's just within each other, and they're generous with one another and living with one another. And it's a happy community, even though they will be persecuted in the next year and go through many hardships, but they're happy together because it's one big community. So I'd like to share a video. It's like a minute long. It's from The Lord of the Rings. So whenever I think of the new earth or heaven where we'll all be one day, I think of this scene. It's of the Shire. Maybe I'm just a little bit old-fashioned. Maybe some of you guys think of like computers and big cities, big towers, going to space, stuff like that. I'm not sure, but when I think of it, I think of this beautiful greenery and whatnot.
That's white, Mason.
Luke, it's not playing.
Press, just click.
Click.
There you go.
Okay, so what I see there, maybe not everybody sees it, but I see everything we just read from that Acts 2 passage, just community and everyone loving one another. And what I want to get to with that is, like, what is the church? What is the church made up of? And the church is a family of believers everywhere across the world. I'll get to that in a second. And just loving one another in community. It's pretty simple at the heart of it. The church is a family, right? Lesson over, go home. Just kidding. None of you laugh. I'm just but at its simplest core, the church is a family. And to really get the perspective of that, my church in Montana, it's called Grace Bible Church. Really, really nice church. I like it. A lot of good people, a lot of people that helped me out with the whole depression aspect of the life, and 12 years of hardship. And well, we had an international conference. I think it was sometime in March. I went into the main congregation area, big, way bigger than this church. I don't know, sermons of like 500 people. But they had an international conference. I had no idea what was going on. But right before they had their main message, they just had all these people standing in the back, and they had world flags. There were probably, I don't know, like 80 flags. And there was a person holding each one, and they came up in a line up to the stage, and they had a little microphone, and they said like hello Grace Baptist Church, praise God, we're glad to be here. And they said that in their foreign language. German, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, mind you, like 80 languages. It was amazing. And then they would say it in English. And then they would walk over and they would plant their flag in the little flag posts. And by the end of it, there were 80 flags standing side by side. And a lot of these nations don't get along. Like the United States, we have enemies. Japan, they have enemies. But that doesn't matter because we were all believers. What really broke me, it was about halfway through, and there was a kid about 16, 18 years old, you know, a little older than you guys, and he didn't have any legs, and I think he was walking on crutches and some prosthetics or something, but he carried in his shoulder, it was the flag of North Korea, right? One of our biggest enemies. But it doesn't matter because God doesn't care about the nations. He cares about us and what's in us, our hearts. And he walked up and he said hello everyone in the North Korean language, whatever, I guess it's just Korean. Then he walked off the stage and planted his flag. And that just, it broke me because it really showed me that one day when we're all hopefully in the heaven of the new earth or whatever you want to call it, it's not just us. It's not just us in Colorado, just the Church of Colorado, the Church of America, whatever you want to call it. Not just us and the Catholics. It's all over the world. All different ethnicities, backgrounds, cultures, all of it. There are a lot of believers, and frankly, it's awesome to think about, but hard to wrap your mind about. If none of you have ever been out of the country, places are a lot different than America, but that doesn't matter to God because God doesn't care about America. He cares about the people on His earth. So anyway, on to our next part of Scripture.
Mason, could you just press down on the computer?
Press
to
down?
get to your slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just want you to go.
I'm going into computer science, but I know nothing about it. So.
PowerPoint isn't computer science, you find?
Oh, yeah, there's my point. The church is made up of all believers everywhere. That was my point with my story. So next, I'd like us to turn to Ephesians chapter 4. So this is a letter that Paul wrote to the church of Ephesus. And Ephesus was a little bit of a messed up place, and their church was going through some things. But he wrote them a letter supporting them. And he was basically in this section, he's writing what the church should do and what it functions as. Give me just a second to find it again, because I cannot read. So Ephesians 4:11. So Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and teachers to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves, and blown here and there by every wind of teaching, and by the cunning and craftiness of people and their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every aspect the mature body of him who is the head, that is, Christ. From him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. So we could easily do 20 lessons on that, because that's a famous set of verses. But what I want to point out in there's three aspects that Paul is saying the church does. In the very beginning, Christ gave himself to the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and the teachers. So who does that include? It's a trick question. It includes all of us. We're all technically evangelists, and we're all called to do work for God. So when I'm talking about what the church is supposed to do, well, what is the church, first of all?
The body.
All
believers,
all people, yeah. So all people, not just the leaders of the church. So like the leaders of the church would include, Alan and Luke, Teresa, Jake, etc. But the church is not them. The church is all of us. And so that beginning, when it lists all those, big words, I don't understand half of them. But he's talking about all of us. Not just the leaders, not just Alan. He's talking about all of us. All of us do what's in these next passages. Now, the three things that I have come up, the church's main functions. I stole this from my pastor in Montana, and you know what? That's fine, because it's good teaching, and I think everybody needs to hear it. And the church does three things. One, it encourages. Okay? So remember, I'm talking about everybody, not just the leaders. We all sit here, and in community and fellowship, we encourage one another to follow Christ and do what is right, right? The second one is equip. It was in verse 12 of Ephesians 4:12. Yeah. But the church equips its followers to do the work of Christ. So what I mean by that is when you go to your Sunday morning church service and you're listening to the old guy give his message and you're like, why am I here? We've all felt it. But sometimes you just don't know why you're there and what's the point of it. But the point of it is to learn about Christ, so you can go out and spread forth his message. So that's what equipping means. And once we are equipped, we can go out and equip others. Because coming back here, what I've noticed is I have a lot of deep theological discussions with, if anybody knows Miss Sherilyn, her, Teresa, Jake, etc., all the leaders, including some of you guys. And it's honestly just fun. I like discussion. Maybe some of you don't, but that's okay. Now, the third and final thing the church does, it edifies. That's a big word. I had to look up what it means. Now I know because I Googled it. To edify means to build up. So that can mean a lot of different things, but to build up your faith, right, in a singular tense, right? The church acts to build up your faith, so you trust God more, and then you can go out and encourage and equip people more easily. And also, as a whole body, the church edifies itself, and the believers and the followers in the church edify the church, or they build it up. They build up a bigger body of believers, right? I don't think I've seen this many people in the youth group it's been a year since I've been here. But, it seems like there's quite a few people here. And that's a form of edification, to build up the body. And it's very encouraging for me to see how many of you guys are, first of all, still here, and also the newcomers. So the church is made up of all believers everywhere. Its purpose is to encourage, equip, and edify. Does all that make sense? Anybody not following?
Now you're doing great.
Thanks. Alright, to more grasp the purpose of this, I'm going to need a single volunteer. Matthew? Alright, stand up. All of you on the couch, stand up.
Am I supposed to fight him?
You're not gonna, no.
One at a time.
No.
Son of a
Alright,
bitch.
all of you guys from the couch, move over there, please. And move that table out of the way, if you'd be so kind. Oh, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Alright, Matthew, as my single volunteer.